All right, good day, guys. We want to start a 3-day talk on scalp, and then hopefully you guys can make use of this knowledge to better your trading career. When we talk about scalp, different people have different definition for scalps. Some for them, scalp means go in fast and get out fast, and that will be correct. For some, scalps means refining your entries, such that the stop loss is very small. If you are wrong, you know you are wrong within, 6 pips and you're out, then you can always reassess your situation, right? Whatever your definition of what a scalp is, what we're going to discuss in the next 2-3 days will fit into it. But before then, we'll do our normal review, what we do when it comes to how we trade. Right, so let me ensure nobody can unmute themselves. See that? All right, let's move on. So when it comes to trading, the basic challenge is whether we should be buying or selling. A very big challenge for many traders. Should we be buying or should we be selling? So the strategy we're going to discuss will help you look for buys and to also help you look for sales, irrespective of what the trend is. However, when we get to day 3 or day 2 and we start looking at the trade plan, you will notice that we would favor trading in line with the trend. But note that you could trade both ways with this strategy, because you're basically scalping, you're basically going for just few pips and you're getting out, or 1:5, 1:4, and then you get out. But we need to identify our zones, and we're going to define some terms, right? The first term we'll define is called top edge, right? We have what we call top edge. Then, of course, we have the bottom edge, right? The top edge and the bottom edge. So the top edge simply means the highest point. And to be able to define what highest point is, we'll use one William indicator called fractal. And I must have explained fractal before, but since we're doing this as a new series, permit me to explain it again. So I'm going to draw something that looks like the human palm, perhaps the right human hand, something like that, right? For most people, this finger 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For most people, finger 3 is the tallest, longest, whichever one you want to use, right? And so we call this finger 3 a fractal. Why do we determine that is a fractal? How can we determine it's a fractal? The high of fingers 1 and 2 is lower than the high of finger 3, and the high of finger 4 and 5 is lower than the high of finger 3. This becomes our point of reference, right? Because it's the top edge, right? Reverse this diagram downwards, then 3 becomes the bottom edge, right? So we have the top edge and we have the bottom edge. The idea here is, like we all know, when we started trading, they gave us a rule, and the rule is buy low and sell high. One of the rules we all know when we start trading Forex. So what we want to do is determine what is high, right? And we say our high is our top edge and our low is our bottom edge. We will be looking to buy from our low edges. I'll be looking to sell from our top edge. So even if you use an indicator, let's say RSI, or an oscillator, and it oscillates, at this bottom, you say you have an opportunity to buy because it has been oversold. You have an opportunity to sell here because it has been overbought, right? Similar scenario here. So we'll be calling our the fractals are our top edges for this strategy. All right, just one moment, please. Okay. So with this, the next thing we want to do is that we have to identify what do we want to happen at this top and bottom edge. But before we do that, I want to take us to the charts and let's see how this plays out several times and how this could have helped, or this can help you catch wonderful trades. This is a chart of USD CHF. This is a chart of USD CHF. Magnify it a little so you can see what happens here. I want you to see how nicely price came to this top edge. This blue line is our top edge, and this other line down here is our bottom edge. It's actually the same thing with fractal. I could come here, go to insert the Williams and put fractals here. Sorry, let's change the color. Fractals. Let's make it black so you can show. Right, so you see that is a fractal at that point. It's a fractal there because the two candles to the left is lower than the candle at the middle, and the two candles to the right is lower than the candle at the middle. So that becomes a fractal, right? Later on, I'll show you guys how to get this indicator should you want it on your screen, right? So we'll be looking for reasons to buy or sell at this point, depending on what our indicator or what the direction of our trend is. So let's take this out for now. Okay, let's leave it so just so we could see. Right, so notice that what price did when it came to this top edge, it came to that top edge and gave you a reason to sell, right? When it wanted to buy, it came to this bottom edge and bought all the way to that top, came back again to the bottom edges and then bought. It came to this top edge, sold a little before reversing, and then came back again to these top edges, sold the first time, came back, sold the second time, came back to this low edge, and then bought. Broke down, came back to the top edge, and then sold. Top edge, sold. Top edge, sold, right? Bottom edges, buy. Top edge, this would have been a losing trade. Top edge, sold. Bottom edge, buy. All right. So that's the concept I want you to see here. The concept of selling from the very, very, very top and buying from the bottom. Would you have a 100% win rate? Maybe not exactly, but for every winning trade you get, there's a tendency that it could go, because we'll be scalping this from lower time frames, a tendency that you could go 1:5, 1:10, 1:20 some instances, right? And so it will more or less cover for whatever losing trade you have, right? So but in day one, what we're trying to drive home at is your understanding of a top edge and a bottom edge. Looking to sell from a top edge and looking to buy from a bottom edge, right? So how would we be looking for buys here? First thing we want to do is that we need to establish what time frame our top and bottom edges will be from, right? From what time frame would you be looking at your top or bottom edge? So let's look at another scenario here. We can pick up practically any pair so that it doesn't look like we're cherry picking. You can practically pick out any pair, let's say Euro JPY, and you see something similar to, right? Selling from the top edges, buying from the bottom edges, selling from the top edges, buying from the bottom edges. Look at that. Look at the way you could be buying and selling, right, from those edges. For those of you who love gold, perhaps you should take a look at gold too. Don't have gold here. Let's go to symbols, go to metals. color gold. Let's see gold. So several people trade gold. Right? Same thing, right? Basically the same thing. Selling from the top, buying. So you're not planning to take any trade in between. You want to ensure that price has taken out top edges. See that powerful buy after I took out that bottom edge, right? And then it came to the top here and then sold. So we'll be drawing up our criteria for looking for where to buy or sell from, right? Okay, so let me check this and be sure of yeah. So this is default at 0. Default at 0 means that it's going to pick the top edge and bottom edge of whatever time frame it's in. So if I go to 1 hour, the lines will print differently to show me the top and bottom edges of 1 hour, right? So what I'll suggest here is that you look for the top edge in a higher time frame and then look for your entry at a lower time frame. Look for your top edge at a higher time frame and your entry at a lower time frame. So we will suggest that you use H4, for instance, as one of your higher time frame. Let me do it this way. So you have higher time frame where you look for your top edges, and then you have lower time frame for your entries, right? So you could basically look at D1 for your higher time frame, and you're looking for entries on H1 and M30. Again, this could still be a scalp. It all depends on how fast you want to get out. Remember your definition of a scalp. I traditionally use H4 and I look at M30, M15, right? I know some persons go as far as M5. Again, it just means that you have more losing trades. You could add your own filter. It could be awesome oscillator, it could be stochastics or whatever. I don't use them, but you could to get that. By the time we get to day 3, I'll show you exactly how I trade it. For now, let's just lay the broad foundation, right? You could also start with H1 for your higher time frame, and then you use M5 or even M1 for your entry. I suggest you don't look at this. M5 is just good enough for your entry. Right, so that is the first thing we're going to discuss today. Top edges and bottom edges, and you can practically see them on your chart using fractals. Either this multi-time frame fractal or your traditional fractal. The next component we're going to add to this is that we're going to add what we normally use. You know, in Simply Pips, you've been following for a while, strategies that emanate from my own end. You rarely would see any strategy that doesn't have yesterday high or low, right? You always want to have yesterday high or low. So the next component, apart from first component, we already know, the very first component, sorry. The very first component, we say we are looking for our edges, right? The second component, we'll be looking for yesterday high or low, or Asian high or low, right? We want to look for this. We may even take out Asia high or low and just stay with yesterday high or low, whichever one. But by the time we move on, you'll discover that you can actually use these two. So we have the Asia high or low, and we have the yesterday high or low as points we want to look out for. So how do we mix these two together? It simply means I want to see a top edge that is around my Asia high or low. If I find a top edge somewhere in the middle, I might not just be interested in looking at it. So what that will do is that it reduces the number of setups I have, and then increases my win rate, the precision of the trade. So let's take an example again so you see what I have to say here. So let's come back here and let's use a pair like NZD JPY. So here we have NZDJPY. Go to 15 minutes time frame. Let me see if I can follow. Sorry, just a minute, please. Here is that template. All right, no problem. We will create the template ourselves from here so we can all see it. Okay, so here I want to include yesterday high or low to whatever we have here. So I'm going to look for the yesterday high or low indicator and then have it added to our chart. So I'm looking for daily high-low. Is that what I want? Nope. Let's look for yesterday high-low. Okay, I'll do it this way. Let me call up this template. Very good. NZDJPY. And then I add my MTF fractal. Okay. I have 2 here. I have 2 there. All right. So what I just did was added MTF fractal to this template. Now notice how numerous these lines are. It becomes almost impossible to trade if you do this. So what we're going to do is I will go to our MTF fractal. We'll go to our MTF fractal and we'll change the time frame. So let's say you want to use 4 hours. This will be 240 minutes, right? So it's going to only show you MTF fractals of 4 hours, but you'll be able to see it on 15 minutes. So you see you have fewer fractals now. You have fewer fractals to trade from, right? So here we have NZD JPY. We can go back to history. So we'll take some examples from there and begin to bring it back. Let's increase the number of bars here by adding 1 more 0 to the end. All right. Adding 1 more 0 to the end. Sessions. Yep. Okay, so let's move on. So if you notice here, this is the end of Asia high. This is the end of Asia high. See how price went to that point. Right, see how price went to that point, created a fractal high there, and then we had that drop, right? Notice this fractal high too. See how price came, took out the previous fractal high at yesterday's high. That was the highest point of yesterday. Price took out the fractal at yesterday's high, and then we sold. So this will be our trade of, interest. This will not fit our trade of interest, right? Because it was just creating the fractal. But when we get to day 3, we'll tell us how to look at that. For now, we're looking at exactly what we just discussed here. We're looking at top edges, yesterday high low. For now. So that is the top edge. Once price returns back to that region and it takes out yesterday high or low, we are looking for reasons to sell. And that was the sell that we got there. Now we are not looking at trend yet. By the time we add trend by tomorrow, you see how we would have been looking for buys in this case as against sell. But for now, let's just get the concept. So you only be looking for sells when price takes out a top edge and at around yesterday high or low, you begin to look for reasons to sell. And there are several of them on the charts for us to see. So here we have another one. This is a top edge, right? And it happened to be the high of this particular day. Price came back exactly to that point, right? That is your Q. to enter, and that is the sell to the downside, right? So let's see more examples here again. All these are top edges, and they were highs of previous days. Price came back to it. You would have had one or two losing trades here, but then if you cut this, then you would have practically recovered back everything you lost in this massive push to the downside. Just get the concept. This is not the strategy yet, it's a concept for today. Right, this is a top edge. We will not have entered this trade. This, for those of you that are going to use the MTF fractal, I should quickly explain something here. If you are using the MTF fractal, that's multi-time frame fractal, this singular dot you see here signifies the time when this fractal was confirmed. Remember, you are doing this on 4 hours. If I go to 30 minutes now, this number of dots will reduce, right? Because we're on 15 minutes, what it practically did was divided 4 hours by 15 minutes. That's the number of dots you see there. So if I move this to 30 minutes, the number of dots will reduce, right? It will reduce. And this red dot here signifies the time when this line would have formed on 4 hours, right? So in case you want to backtest, that's what this means. So it means you wouldn't have been thinking of trading around this time, but you would have been thinking of trading around this time, right? Around this time, you would have been thinking of taking this trade for the sell, right? It means you wouldn't have been thinking of trading around here. Then around this time, yes, you would have been looking for reasons to sell. So basically, that's the two basic things I want to explain today: top edges and yesterday high or low. We are going to combine these two together and determine whether we want to take our trades for a buy or sell. By the time we meet tomorrow, we will look at how to determine the trend, and we'll only trade in line with the trend. This USD chair, for instance, there's a tool here we use in the fostering program. We use it to determine what the trend is, and you can see clearly that it has turned red, bearish. At this point in time, you're not looking for buys. We will only be looking for sells. That was the top edge sell. That was another top edge sell. This is another top edge sell. And here, today, is another top edge sell. It's as simple as that. Even though we said you could go counter trend, but notice how this buy might have made you some money. These buys here might have made you some money, but you are more interested in these sells, right? Which is what we'll be covering tomorrow. But for now, what I want us to be comfortable with is our top edge and bottom edge. And of course, you could set up your own MT4 before we meet tomorrow. So if you want to download this particular tool, this MTF fractal, what you do is that you go to market, come here to market. It will usually take time to load if your system is low. You put MTF and type fractal, and then you search. You come to market, type MTF fractal, and then you search. Where is that now? Those of you in the fostering program already have this tool, but for those outside, that's how you look for it. You look for MTF. Let's see that again. MTF fractal. Yep. So here you see, this is a free MTF fractal. This is a free MTF fractal. All these are all right. This is paid, but this one is free, right? So you could just click on it and you click on download, right? Like I'm going to do now. Of course, you should have logged into your MQL5 community. Then click on download. It's going to appear under your markets. So when you come here, you look for markets. I've not downloaded anything in market. This is okay here, but I've not downloaded anything in market on this browser. All these are from previous systems, and they won't work here, right? So that's how you download your MTF fractal. What I want you to do between now and tomorrow, when we meet again, is go back to your charts, put up your MTF fractal, put up your yesterday high-low indicators and see how often price comes back to these areas before dropping off, right? We'll look at how to determine the trend tomorrow, and then on the last day, we'll look at how to take our entries. For now, just get comfortable knowing those two things, the top edges, bottom edges, and yesterday high-low. Right? For those who are old with us, you practically understand everything I've said today to look like we wasted your time. But for the new guys, please go do these things we just said. Put your fractals and yesterday high-low and see how it practically plays out. For me, tomorrow we'll be looking at the trend. So like I said, I don't want this session to be too long. Just short is a scalping method. Some of you are going to pass your prop firm with this. Some of you are going to get to a point where you start making almost fixed number of pips per day using this strategy. It's been life transforming for me, and I'm not in a hurry to divulge everything. So please go do exactly what we just said now, and then we'll continue later. I'll pause this video for now and give room for questions. Yep. All right, to be able to do this, to be able to get your MTF, your multi-time frame fractal on TradingView, I've not been able to find a multi-time frame fractal for TradingView. However, there's an indicator called fractal alligator. You could come to your indicator tab and look for fractal and alligator. That's it here. By just, I believe this is just Uncle L or something like that, right? So once you click on it, it brings out something that looks like this. It brings out something that looks like this. All you need to do is take out these lines, and to be able to do that, you go to your settings, you uncheck the jaw, the teeth, and the lips, right? That will give you this, and I think basically that is all. So what you have here is basically your fractals. Let's hide this PC. So what you have here is just basically your fractals. Now the disadvantage with this is that I prefer the MT4 because the MT4 allows me to pick a time frame for my fractal and then stick with it. This method, this TradingView doesn't give me the ability to do that. So if you're going to use H4, let's go back to, let's pick one pair, for example. Let's pick let's pick Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been causing trouble for a lot of people lately. So let's say Bitcoin is our pair of interest. You notice that you have to practically put the MTF fractal yourself on each of these green tabs. Each of them, you have to practically put it yourself, right? That's a challenge with this, because if I go down to 1 hour, I'll be seeing more green fractals, and I don't want to do that. I want to see only H4. So if any of you have another way of doing this on TradingView, I'll be welcome to learn that. But let's look at Bitcoin by using even this MTF fractal point. So we would have been looking for a sell after we got this dip. We would have been looking for a sell in this region, and that was exactly what happened. When price came to those fractal highs, it actually gave us that drop. We'll be looking for reasons to buy from these fractal lows. So we're looking to buy Bitcoin from around here. So that means we are looking at Bitcoin coming to around 45,600 for possible buys. If it breaks that level, we'll be looking at it coming all the way down to 41.9, right? So even with Bitcoin, watch how, by the time we discuss the entry criteria, you get it better. Watch how we would have gotten an entry for a buy here, right? We might have missed all of these sells, but would have caught this sell to the downside. This will not have met any of our criteria when we discuss that, but this would have met our criteria for a sell, right? And this would have met our criteria for a buy. So that's how you do this on TradingView. If you want to now find yesterday high low, There's another indicator we can use for yesterday high-low. What's the name of that indicator? Yeah, that's it. High-low yesterday. Just set for high-low yesterday. And then it comes out like this. You basically just remove the colors. If you don't like it too colorful, just change the color. You could make you could hide the backgrounds and make the top one, let's say black, and the bottom one black, or whatever you want. So it basically just shows you your yesterday high, low, and then you can look at it for your entries. Let's say you prefer to enter on 15 minutes. You can now go to 15 minutes and look for your entry. So this will work with trading view. That's how you look for it on trading view, basically.